we're gonna jump right into it. What kind of American host families are there, you might ask? Our host family, actually, they come in all shapes and sizes. On our program, we got same-sex parents, single parents, families with different ethnic, racial, and religious backgrounds, you name it. And our family lives in all corners of America, and they all have different needs, different childcare schedules, and different interests and lifestyles. And you actually have a choice when matching with your host family. You can specify your preferences when it comes to the children's ages, how many children you would like to care for, and more. And this is an important thing to consider since, after all, you will be spending most of your time with your host family and your host kids. And today, we are joined by host mom Michelle with her Dutch au pair Branda, which we already met, host dad Ankit with his Dutch au pair Laura, which we also met, and also host mom Sarah with her Swedish au pair Amanda. A warm welcome to all of you guys. How are you?
Good.
We're good.
All are good. Fantastic. Good to hear. And let's see if we can bring up the question. We have so many questions for you guys. You have no idea. And before we start with the questions, we of course would like a shorter introduction of you as well. So could you all make a short introduction of you and your family? Michelle, maybe you would like to start.
I'm Michelle. I have a husband named Jacob and 2 children. Now the son is 8 and the daughter is 5. When Brenda got here, I think he was 5 and she was 3.
Yeah, he was 6, she was 4. I think.
Right.
Yeah,
she knows better. And we like to obviously hike. We like to be outdoors, and we like to do things together as a family. You know, including Brenda, and sometimes she likes to do things on her own. Yeah, and we're based on the West Coast, so we love having Brenda here, and this is our second au pair. So
nice, fantastic. And Keith, would you like to continue? Am I pronouncing your name correct?
Yeah, it's Ankit, but that's perfect.
Ankit.
You did a great job.
Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah, my name's Ankit Udani. My wife's name is Annie. We're both anesthesiologists at Duke Hospital. We obviously love having Laura here. She came here during this massive pandemic, so we're super appreciative. We have a 4-year-old son, Aiden, and a 2-year-old daughter, Asha. And Laura is our 3rd au pair. And yeah, it's been a wonderful experience to host her.
Fantastic. Thank you for sharing. And Sarah, you're up.
Hi, Sarah Costa. We have my husband Gabriel there in the picture, and then we've got an almost 6-year-old Farron and a 2-year-old Alaya. We had 3 au pairs before Amanda when we were living in Vermont, and then Amanda joined us here in Virginia right after we moved, like a week later. And I am a graduate student, and my husband is in healthcare.
Good, fantastic. I will continue with you, Sarah. We have got a lot of pre-asked questions already, and I also want to encourage you, if you now have questions that you have not pre-asked before, please make sure to write them down in the chat box, and we will make sure to run through as many as we can. But Sarah, one of the questions we have got many times is why you have decided to, why you and your family decided to host an au pair. How come you did not choose to host a nanny?
Yeah, for us, it was a combination of 2 things that made the au pair program make the most sense for us. One was flexibility, because we had such strange work schedules and study schedules. We would sometimes need childcare at hours that no daycare was open, and having an au pair just provided that flexibility. But then the other one was that we really wanted to bring a different culture into our home and have our kids be exposed to that, because we were in places where they didn't get a lot of exposure to different cultures and different countries and different languages. And so this was a way to sort of share the world with our kids.
Nice, fantastic. And Michelle, another question that we got is related to how you screen au pair profiles. I think that this is a common question that I think I get almost every single day. Like, what do the host families look for when they look through my profile? What should I think of? So what would you say is the 3 main things you're looking through when you screen for a profile?
sounds terrible because it brings too much bias into the situation, but the picture is always says 1,000 words, right? So if someone has a picture of them and kids smiling, I think that draws me a lot more to their profile than just one of themselves glammed up. So I think it's you being you and being real. I think that would be one of my number one, just because, I mean, this is a really hard process for all of us, you know, au pairs and us, and, you know, a picture says something. I also look for, I don't typically look for the country, but you have to scale it back. So lately we've been going with European, but there's never, like, each family, like if someone wants to learn Portuguese, that's a big thing. For us, language wasn't a thing, but because our son's getting into that he's in second grade now, it was very important, the English proficiency for us, just at least basic. We didn't need someone with, we just couldn't handle someone without any English, where it would be a big deal, because our son really needs that additional help in school too. So we needed someone a little more proficient. And then I think the third thing is kind of the interests, make sure they kind of align with ours. You know, if someone was rather be indoors all the time, that wouldn't have worked well, because they wouldn't want to be with our family when we went out and about. So that would be the third thing.
Nice. Great. Thank you so much for sharing. Anki, we got another question, which might sound a little silly, but I know that I was asking this myself when I applied, and that was how well you need to be able to cook when you're an au pair.
We are probably not the best family to ask that, because my wife and I eat really poorly. But we could pretty much eat the same food every day for the whole year if we really needed to. However, over the 3 different au pairs we've had, you know, we like, you know, it's always great to have our kids eat food that is nutritious. We're actually vegetarian, and Laura happens to just be an amazing cook. We didn't really screen for that at all, because our diets are pretty bad. But yeah, Laura's been really helpful. You know, with our first au pair, we actually did like a subscription service. I forget what it was. Some sort of
Apron.
Yeah, like Blue Apron. Yeah, it was Blue Apron. And you know, I actually really enjoy cooking when I have time to do it, and I actually like cooking with au pairs. So you know, for Thanksgiving and stuff, like obviously we cooked with Laura. However, for us, it's not a big deal. I don't think we actually talked about it on the interview process. We do have we came up with a quick meal plan for the kids, and trying to introduce vegetables, like as long as our goals are aligned about, you know, making sure they're eating well, and, you know, what that process is like. But yeah, we didn't personally think it was important. But, you know, Laura happens to be like a chef quality person. So we're reaping the benefits of that right now.
That's awesome. Great to hear. Thank you so much. All right, Sarah, we got a question that was actually asked to au pairs as well. So this is the same kind of question. We have a candidate who asked what the most difficult part of being a host family might be.
That's a great question. It's probably different for different host families. I think for us, it's finding that balance of being a family and an employer at the same time. Trying to support these amazing young people who are exploring a whole new culture and away from home, and also have a lot of responsibilities, but also are looking to have a good time and make friends. And you're there, so you're supporting them as a parent, you're supporting them as an employer, and you're supporting them as like sort of a sibling to your kids. And it's just a lot of different roles to take on. And so finding a personality match that will work with that is challenging. And then figuring out where you're going to like set boundaries and enforce them and also be flexible is challenging. But we've been managing it through many au pairs.
Great. Yeah, but it's nice to hear that you had several au pairs, and you have, you know, experience. I know that my host family that I was with, they also had different experience depending on the au pair. So it's nice to hear. Great. All right, Michelle, here's a question for you. What kind of relationship do you strive to have with the au pair?
I think Sarah kind of hit on it a little bit. It's like the balance between family, employer, but with Brenda, we definitely consider her family at this point. She's on her second year with us. So of course we strive to have an au pair that is happy and healthy and enjoying kind of the ins and outs and ups and downs of the world right now. You know, it's been a rough year, I think, for everyone. And I think, you know, all of us can get knocked down, but, you know, each of us pick each other up again. And I think that's a huge part, right? Like having that, you know, sometimes I have bad days too, you know, like, don't worry, like the host parents have bad days, you know, don't forget that we're all human. And Brendan knows when I have those bad days, or when I'm like at my limit with the kids, and she'll kind of give me a look and we just know, okay, take it back.
That's it.
Just look like, just breathe.
We don't need words sometimes.
So like, I mean, that's an amazing connection that like, I don't think you get with every au pair, but I do know like you find a way to work through the problems of the day. And I think that's where I would say it. I want the relationship to be like just that great.
Great, super. The next question is actually, I think, for both Ankit and Laura, because we've got a question where we have someone asking, how were you able to build a solid relationship with a short time? And I think this question is valid since you have not been in America as long as Amanda and Brenda has. So again, how were you able to build a solid relationship with a short time? Do you have any tips?
I think right from when I started, I kind of always joined them, even outside my working hours. Like we did a trip to the beach, and like in the pandemic, it's a bit harder to do like things, but like if they would go to like friends at the weekend, I'd join them and just spend like as much time with them as possible. And honestly, I love spending time with them, so it wasn't like a big deal for me, but I think that just really helped getting to know them more and spending time with them.
Yeah, I think Laura did a great job with that. Also, my wife is like, I'm sure she's like these other amazing host moms. She was like so on top of this that we matched with Laura like 12 months in advance. So she was almost like part of our family. Like we would schedule regular meetings with her every month for 12 months. And then especially when the pandemic hit, we were even closer to her. And so that really, I mean, that was one of the, and we did that with our previous au pair too. So it's something that we found really helpful, is just integrating our au pairs into our family, even while we have another au pair, so that the landing when they join us is actually quite good. And you know, a lot of expectations are already met and questions are answered. I remember Laura was taking her course with cultural care and just being like, yeah, we've covered everything already. And that's great. It's good to hear. So I think that was really important, and it helped a lot with, you know, getting Laura feeling comfortable in a new country, in a new city.
Nice. Great. Thank you, both of you. All right, Sarah, the next one is for you. Since you've been having several au pairs, we have a question for you. And it says, is it easy for you to have the same bonding with every au pair? Don't you ever compare the other experience that you had?
I don't compare. I just appreciate the differences. Our au pairs has had such a different personality. They came from totally different parts of the world. We had someone from Mexico, we had someone from Australia, Amanda's from Sweden. They all came with different interests, different food preferences, different cultural traditions, and totally different personalities and styles with the kids. And we've enjoyed all of them. It's been a really enriching part of the host family experience to have the chance to get our kids to bond with so many different people, with all of that diversity. It's just been wonderful. So yeah, we don't compare. We're just appreciative of the difference.
I like that answer. Thank you. We got a couple of questions regarding the, I don't know if you want to call them the Skype interviews or the FaceTime interviews, but the video chats that you have before you're choosing an au pair. So Michelle, the next question I have for you is what type of questions you usually ask during the video interviews, and how do you know that someone is the right au pair for you?
The question has been a long time since
Yeah.
having to really search back. I definitely knowing the au pair, like you never know, you just choose the person that makes sense with your family dynamic. So with us, it's always about the kids, right? Because the kids are the ones that, you know, the au pair really needs to connect with. Obviously we do too, so we can communicate and work together and, you know, be like kind of the third parent, the, you know, person in charge of the kids when we're not there. But kind of I think some of the key questions are like what responsibilities they currently have and what experience they have with any kind of childcare, right? Childcare doesn't have to be being a babysitter. It could be simply caring for your younger sibling. So all of that does matter. Kind of their, I think interests, I said this earlier, interests are a big thing with a family. You're coming to live with a family and you are part of that household. So if you don't have some common ground, it will be very hard. So you have to make sure you, like when I'm looking for someone, I make sure the person has common interests. Otherwise it just won't work, right? Like you have to have that connection where you can all be together and spend that time. So I look for those sorts of things. I don't look at the grammatically correct profiles. Brenda went back and looked at hers. Like, make your profile speak about who you are. Like, English is not your first language, so we know that and we take that into account. So don't worry about that part. But other things, like for us, swimming wasn't a big thing, but now, like, Brenda had that, so that's been helpful because she's been helping the kids with swimming lately. So I think it depends on where our kids are at in life too, because my questions do change as my kids grow, right? The driving was a big thing for us. Our au pairs drive our kids to and from school and sports. So that was one of our big, can you drive? Do you drive? And she just practiced a lot before she came to. So.
Can I add something on the interviews?
Of course, of course.
Okay, because I know that a lot of au pairs see those interviews as like job interviews. You really have to get rid of that idea because it's not a job interview. You know, the first meeting, just have some fun. Just get to know each other. Like, hey, what do you like? And really focus on the kids. Like, hey, what's your favorite color? What do you like in school? What do you like to do when you're not in school? And then after that first meeting, maybe the second or the third meeting, you can start asking questions about, hey, what would the schedule look like? Can you maybe give me a tour of the house? But don't forget that it's both ways. It's not just au pairs finding a host family. It's also host families finding an au pair. So we're not the only ones who are nervous. Host families are probably too. So don't see it as a job interview. Just see it as something cool. Like, whoa, talking to people on the other side of the world. That's awesome. So just wanted to say that.
Great, thank you. Thank you for sharing. Lauren, Ankit, how was your first meeting when you were meeting? I don't know if you met on Skype or...
Yeah, for like FaceTime or something.
FaceTime, yeah. How was that? How was your very first time when you were speaking to them?
Yeah, it was a long time ago.
I think, I don't know, from my side, I think it just like clicked. Like we just had like a really good conversation. Like it wasn't very structured or very business-like Brenda and Michelle just said. It was just more of like a informal chat to get to know each other, I think. Can't really remember.
Yeah, I think we've always done our interviews or our first meetings with both my wife and I. So we definitely try to both be there and make sure we're like kind of in an uninterrupted environment so that we can really, you know, give our best to the au pair and make sure she knows that he knows that they're the focus of our attention for that time period. But I agree with it's been awesome on this panel with I think it's Sarah and Michelle and the other au pairs. You guys are saying exactly what I would answer all these questions to as well. So But I agree. It's, it's not really much of an interview. It's more just to get a flavor of personalities, and there's just some natural cadence to the conversation. Not too much to, nothing to dig for or anything like that. Just kind of get an idea of if this is the right match. You guys do a great job with your profiles, so I think a lot can be got from that. And then, the interview is really just a start of a relationship that can go further, or can kind of just be a check-in. Again, a cool experience to talk to someone from another country.
Nice, great. Thank you. I'm going to ask a question that I actually don't know if any of you have experienced, but I think that many people that apply to the au pair program are nervous about this, so I'm going to bring it up anyways. A common question that we have got during these 30 minutes now is if you ever have had an au pair that you had trouble with or did not feel the connection with, or at some point understood that this was not for us. Have you ever experienced that this might not be the right fit, and how do you move forward from there? Or if you have not experienced this, what would be your greatest tip? And anyone is actually welcome to answer now. You can just jump in because we only have a few minutes left now.
I can answer that, because we actually
go ahead.
have a pair that we decided wasn't working, and we put her into rematch, and we rematched with someone else who had been in this US for a month and then decided that she wanted to rematch. And that one, she was with us for 3 months before we finally realized that it just wasn't working out. We had an incident that made us realize that that it just wasn't working, and we wanted her to still have a chance here in the US. And so we did support her in a rematch. She found another family really quickly. This was before COVID. So rematching now is crazy, is my understanding. But in normal times, like she found someone really quickly. They were a great fit for her. She finished out her year and had a wonderful time and is still in touch with us. And then the au pair that came to us from a situation that she knew very quickly wasn't the right fit for her, just was incredible. And she and my son spent 11 months together, just having the most wonderful adventures. And so it was a really happy ending. So I know that rematch sounds scary. It can ultimately be a good thing for every party involved. And our experience with it was that it was for the best for absolutely everyone, and we all ended up in a much better situation.
I want to throw one other thing in there. As a host family, I think it's important that for both sides, if there is an issue, you bring it up. Brenda and us had a discussion in the beginning, like if there is something going on, bring it to the table and let us know, both ways. Because otherwise, if you don't talk about issues, they don't get resolved, and things can become worse and worse over time. So there may or may not be issues, but when there are, you should bring them up and resolve them. Or even just say there's an issue. Maybe there's no resolution right away, but at least it's out there that you're having difficulty, right? Whatever it might be. Your host family is there to be your family. So remember that and have that relationship.
I think all of these are great points, and I really appreciate you bringing this up, because I think this is one of the subjects that we also get the most questions about. What would happen and what do I do? So I really appreciate taking your time sharing those answers. Thank you. We got time for maybe 2 more questions. We got one about driving. Anki, we got one question where they ask, or this person actually say, actually, the driving part is one of the things that's stressing me out, to be honest. It's a huge responsibility. When was the first time as a parent you fully trusted the au pair?
Well, I think this is something that we actually screen applications pretty heavily for, because our kids do need to be driven around quite a bit. It was different when we had infants and the kids were babies and they weren't really going places. So we have skewed our application review towards folks that drive on the not the proper side of the road, but the same side of the road as the United States, as well as with pretty long-standing driving history. I think, again, I'm sorry that that's causing this person stress, but I think it depends on the different families and what their needs are. I could imagine if you're not a strong driver and then you're driving kids around, you might get stressed out about that. So like I said, Laura came to us as a completely competent driver. Like we had no worries and we just gave her the keys on the first day she was here. I think we drove around the car with her for a day and she could park better than both of us. So we're like, all right, you're good. Surprisingly, our previous au pair was also named Laura. She was from Germany. She also had really good driving skills. So, I don't know what to say besides we kind of selected au pairs with really good driving. So we weren't surprised that they were good drivers once they got here.
Awesome.
I would add that if you're nervous about driving and you don't want to spend time to really like get comfortable with it, you can screen for families that don't really need driving. You could try to find a place that has great public transit that you're not going to be driving the kids around.
Great. Thank you. I'm going to ask each one of you one last question, and this is the very last thing we will do. And each one of you will get the same question, actually. And I will start off with Michelle. I would like to know what the very best thing about Brenda is.
That's a pretty easy one. She has a very calm personality. So anything's going wrong, she just typically is stable, especially if it's not her related, right? Like maybe when bad things are happening to her, she's a little more crazy, but in her own world. But she, like her calming personality, like she brings kind of a balance in our home. And I think that's big. Especially my husband and I both work. I didn't mention that in the beginning, but typically we wouldn't be at home, but we're at home right now. So she does bring that balance, when we're here and not, so.
Awesome. Isn't that nice to hear, Brenda? And Sarah, what is the very best thing about having Amanda as your au pair?
She is so patient and kind and brings just joy to our kids' lives. And I can't imagine what this year would be without her.
Oh, I got a little teary.
Yeah.
And Anki, what about you? What is the very best thing about Laura and having her as your au pair?
Yeah, there's so many things. If this is the last thing I get to say today, first off, just thanks to all the au pairs out there. You guys are some of the most mature, loving folks out there, and we're really appreciative. As I speak for all host families, that really grateful for everything you've done for our kids. But the best thing about Laura, she just loves our kids unconditionally, and the kids love her, and it's amazing. She's been here for just a few months, but it's palpable, and there's no higher respect in my mind than someone who loves your kids and the kids love them back. So it's probably.
Is awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much, guys, for sharing. It's already 5. We are actually past 5 o'clock here. And before we say goodbye to all of you, I would like to take the opportunity as well to just thank you so very much for attending this session today. And I think it's so powerful to see you together like this. And I'm very happy that you could join on the same screen and for all your answers today.